Welcome back, I'm GTGD, and this is video 12 where I'm going to prepare my main menu script, make a start on it. It's a pretty comfortable and easy video and pretty relaxing in that way. We won't have to do too much in this video. You'll see it develop further as we progress to video 15. So here we're going to implement the basic functionality for going to our game scene from the main menu scene, and then in future videos we're going to set up saving the game, so all of the data to file, and then you're going to start seeing us being able to load the game world again. Okay, so inside of my main menu scene I'm going to make a new game object, and I'm just going to call it something like main menu. And I'm going to attach a script to it, so I'm going to create a new C# script, and I'll just call it main menu. Really nice and easy. I'll just make sure to attach it here as well, and go ahead and open it up. While I'm at it, I'll just reset those coordinates. Doesn't matter, but just wanted to. Okay, so I'll open up the script, and inside of the script there'll be some stuff I'll be putting in for the future. It's not relevant immediately, but one of those is like, for example, using system.io. Alright, so that's for input output. That's for reading and writing to file. It'll be useful later on. So next we'll be using Unity engine.ui and using Unity engine.scene management and using TM Pro. So that also will be a bit later. We are going to make immediate use of the Unity engine.scene management. The UI stuff, etc. will come a bit later on. This script will be a bit bigger in a future video, so I think that would be video 14. Then we'll have a fair bit more content in it. But still, I just wanted to start the basics here and at least get something going and avoid that future video from being too big. So that's the other I guess strategy I have here. So my first variable is public TMP input field, and this is the player name input field where you type in the player's name. And then there's something quite unusual we haven't used here. It's a public static bool, and I'm going to call it is starting new game. You'll see its functionality, its purpose in future videos. It's a global variable. So you just remember that when you go from one scene to another, things are just belong only, those game objects inside of the scene, they only belong to that scene. So when you go to another scene, everything is lost. That's all gone. There are a couple of ways to preserve data between scenes. One is to use don't destroy on load. You put that, I think it's an attribute or something. I can't remember. It's been a little while since I've used it, but I prefer not to use it. What it does, it keeps the game object alive. Whichever one has a script with that on it, it'll keep that game object alive in the next scene. But I prefer to actually just try and minimize as much as possible what needs to go between scenes. If I can write it to a file instead or something, I would probably do that. In this case, all I'm doing is just one variable, and I'm just going to keep that variable across the scene, so that way if I'm actually starting a new game, then you'll see how my save load system works in the future videos. Then it will say, okay, it's just starting a new game, only assign the player name to the player character, and don't start loading up try and load any data from any save files or look for any save files or anything like that. So it keeps it nice and clean that way, and it understands it's a new game. So that's the purpose of that boolean. But if it's not a new game, then it will know that it should load the data from the file name that I passed to it. So that's a really simple technique, and you'll see it in action as we go through, and it allows us to avoid any complexity in our code and our game structure. So I guess for this, I'm going to have a new method called basically, it's called load game scene, so I'm going to call it here. And I don't think I need an update method, so I'm going to call this public void load game scene. And I probably do use the start method in a future video, so that's what I remember. So I'm going to leave that alone. So anyway, public void load game scene, and I'm just gonna say scene manager dot load scene, and which one? It's scene number 1. That's our game scene. Okay, great. Next method, public void start new game. You can already imagine these are going to be associated with buttons soon enough. Well, this one is anyway, start new game, and the load game scene will be called inside of start new game. So I'm going to first of all say is starting new game is equal to true, so set that global variable to true. And yeah, so this is how I avoid using don't destroy on load. Makes my life quite a bit simpler. And if player name input field dot text is an empty, so you didn't actually enter in a name for the player, then I'm still going to at least put something to pass in and name the player with. So if our players basically don't bother to type in a player name, we'll just use a default. We'll say set string player prefs dot set string. This is the name of the key, so I'm going to name the key player name, and the case is important. And what am I going to pass into this player pref string? I'm just going to say player, just a generic name like that. This is basic saving, by the way. This is really basic inbuilt Unity saving, where it's just going into, I think, the registry or something like that, where it's just saving a little piece of data. It's only useful for small stuff like this. You can't save a world. Well, you could, but you probably shouldn't try and save world state and recall world state and stuff with player prefs, and it probably would be very, very tedious. So player prefs dot, and I'm now have an else statement. So if it wasn't empty and I did type in a name for the player, then player prefs dot set string, and I'm just going to copy this so I don't make a mistake. I keep the key the same. So just paste that in. So player name, and what is that? It's player name input field dot text, and that's what will get passed in and saved. And finally, in this, I'm going to load the game scene. Okay, so that's that one done. I'm just going to add in another method here just for the future, which I'll use in the future, and that's public void set start new game bool to false. Just going to keep it here just in case I forget it in the future, because it would allow a bug to creep in. And I'm just going to say is starting, and I'll just explain it in just a moment, is starting new game is equal to false. So what's this about? This is when I'm loading games from, well, I have saved games already, and I'm going to load a game. Then let's say, for example, I started a new game, so the Boolean is true. I'm now playing a game, and I saved the game. Okay, and then I decide to go to the main menu. Well, note that the is starting new game Boolean is still true. It's a global variable. So let's say I went back to the main menu. I wanted to load some other game and start playing that session instead. This variable would still be true. So what I do is when you click on a load game button, which you're going to create in a video after the next, then what will happen is that this variable will be set to false, and it will allow the load game code to be executed and so load the world game state. That's all it's for, and you'll see it there. I just wanted to put it in now so that I didn't forget it and make a mistake and cause a bug to creep in, and we might not see it while I'm recording the videos, but you would experience it in your games, your projects. I didn't want that to happen, so I just wanted to very much make sure that I just covered that here. So public void exit game, that's the last method I'm going to write here, and simply application.quit, and that's it. So that's our script. We will expand on this script in the future. There's a fair bit more to add in the future for actually loading games from our buttons and stuff, but for now that's pretty good. I'm just going to go ahead and just check if it needs anything. It just needs the input field. So our canvas main, if we expand that and we just go to our correction, it's in the canvas new game. We just need to go to our input field and just drag that in. All right, and our actual buttons now, they need to do something. So the button start game, select that one, and I'm gonna add in main menu, and it is going to do start game. So start new game. And let's see, what about quitting? So remember our button exit game in the main menu. So if you select that one, just increase that, put in the main menu, and go ahead and say main menu exit game. Now exit game will only work on a built player. You won't see anything in the editor when you click it, and that's for obvious reasons. You're not telling it to close the editor down, it's just to close the player down. Now if I just quickly run that just to make sure that there are no obvious mistakes or errors, and I'm just gonna hit new game and start a new game. Like if I hit that exit game, nothing happens. So new game, it doesn't matter at the moment entering a player name. We're not making use of that. You'll make use of that in like video 15 when we've implemented loading the game world and applying it, whatever's in file, etc., applying it to the game world. For now, it doesn't matter. I just want to see that it works. Start game. Okay, and there we go. That's our game world loaded, our game scene loaded. So fantastic. Okay, so that was it. This was a nice and easy and simple video, a nice one to just take a quick break. And you can see that the code is very, very basic. Very, very simple. You had an excuse to make to use player prefs, and you're gonna see how I get the string and how I apply it to the player. It is very, very easy, very basic, very simple. You'll see that in a future video, and that was pretty much it. So super duper simple. I guess I will see you in the next video where we're gonna start doing something really interesting, and we are gonna start saving the world state to file, NPC information to file, the player's information all to file, and you're gonna get to see that in the next video. So yeah, that will be super interesting. Okay, I will see you then.